We'll get back to that coming up. But, Billy Ray, right now I want to turn our attention to San Diego State men's basketball because this has been a really interesting few days for San Diego State. First, Malik Pope said he's coming back. Then San Diego State adds a big man who's a graduate transfer from Washington State.
Huge.
Then they get a kid who's a hometown kid who's transferring back. A lot going on with this San Diego State basketball team. Here is assistant coach Justin Hutson back on Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Doing great. Yourself?
Doing great.
Start us off with this. You had to have a feeling that Malik Pope was likely headed back to San Diego State. What does it mean for you guys to know that he's coming back?
It's exciting for us. Yeah, we had a feeling he was probably going to come back. He took a chance and went out and performed for a few teams. Didn't get invited to the combine, which was a little disappointing, but he had some valuable experience, and he's glad to be back, and we're glad to have him.
It's funny you say that it was disappointing. For me, it was exciting that he didn't get invited to the combine because that kind of told me he's coming back.
Right.
Yeah, we always help. We're rooting for him to be able to get more experience. And if the NBA would have said he was ready, we all would have had bells on and been happy for him to leave. But I don't think they think he is yet. So we're happy to have him back.
We asked him about it earlier this week. He said the number one thing he's got to do is he's got to bulk up. He's got to add some size and some muscle. Is that the concentration for him this offseason from your perspective?
That's part of it, yeah. He has to get stronger. All the NBA teams said he had to get stronger, and he's just got to continue to be more consistent. I think everybody in San Diego understands that he has streaks and games that he's really well, and then there's other streaks and games where he's not quite as good, and he's been working hard to be consistent. He has to just be more consistent and be able to have somebody that we can count on that's going to be there every night and have a good game.
All right, San Diego State assistant basketball coach Justin Hutson on Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090. So Malik Pope is coming back. And you guys were looking for some more size. Tell us about this graduate transfer that's coming from Washington State.
Big Valentine. He's a very intelligent young man. He's going to bring some maturity, which is greatly needed. The college teams now, they win with maturity and talent. Obviously, you got to have talent. But when you have talent that's mature, that have been through some of the wars and understand what it takes, it really helps. He's going to block shots. He's going to finish above the rim with dunks, and he's not terrible offensively. So he's a guy that's going to come and help us win. He wants to go to the NCAA tournament, and we're excited to have him. Great student, graduated with over 3.0, very responsible, and somebody that's going to be a great addition to our program and to San Diego.
It's an interesting get, Justin, because his story seemed to be documented for several weeks before it actually got done. Can you just take us through this? The word was he was here on spring break, came to a San Diego State game during the NIT tournament, and then thought, I'd like to come to school here, and I've graduated and I can move on. But it was as if Washington State wouldn't give him his release, or they specifically said, you can go somewhere, but not to San Diego State. How did this all come to be?
I think you hit the story right on the nose. I mean, that's what was documented by, Mark Ziegler, was how it went. He got away with a friend, to come to San Diego for spring break. They actually were supposed to try to go somewhere else, he told us, and they ended up not having enough money, so they came to San Diego and hung out on the beach a little, had a good time, ran into somebody that he knew through Instagram, I think it was, or something like that, and they said, hey, I have a ticket. You want to go to the game? Came to our game, unbeknownst to us, and it was like our only game that wasn't a sellout. I think it was the first NIT game. Loved the atmosphere. And like I said before, he's a very intelligent young man. He's not just in the books. He looked and said they lose Skylar Spencer, they lose Angelo Cho. I think he'd already planned on leaving. Didn't know much about San Diego State before that. And he left here saying, hey, I could have a heck of an opportunity there. And he knows when we have a need, there's an opportunity for him. And the rest is history. They did get a little upset at him and blocked us, and tried to act like there was tampering, but, Valentine could have walked down the streets of San Diego and none of us would have knew who he was. So there was absolutely nothing illegal going on. They quickly backtracked and said, yeah, we know you guys didn't do anything, but they still gave the young man a hard time in the release. And finally, through a lot of pressure through the media, they released it. So we're happy to have it.
So it was the media pressure that actually allowed him to join you guys at San Diego State?
I think they had the media pressure along with there was a student advocate rights, that got involved because, student athletes, they have a lot of rights, but they need somebody to stick up for them. And I think he had a few people sticking up for him in the student rights group. And I think Washington State decided it wasn't in their best interest to keep holding this kid back.
Justin Hutson, assistant basketball coach, San Diego State, on Scott and BR on the Mighty 1090. By the way, if this kid decides he's leaving, which sounds like he'd already made up his mind, would he have been on your radar, or were you guys kind of lucky that he came to you?
Oh, absolutely. We look on a list. They have a recruiting list, and I think Coach Fisher said this today in the newspaper that we were looking for. Everybody knew we were in the market for a big guy. And if we were going to take a fifth-year guy, he's going to be an immediate impact. The position we need was to be a big guy. So we were definitely on the, internet and looking at websites, and there's a list of transfers, and he was on there. We didn't know any of his people, and we didn't know who he was. We didn't know, his mom or dad. We didn't previously recruit him. We didn't know his AAU coach. And then we started to find out that, we were kind of blocked. And we didn't know why. We're like, well, why are we blocked? We don't know the young man. And then we found out the story that he had been in San Diego. So once we found that out, we had to just hold tight and hope that he would get his release, and then also hope that he would still want to come here. That since they were putting up such a beef, we thought he might just say, forget it, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and he did not. He wanted to come here. He knew the opportunity here. He knew we were losing two big guys, so we were very fortunate that Valentine wanted to come here.
All right, very good. Justin Hutson is the assistant basketball coach to Steve Fisher at San Diego State. Last thing, Coach, this kid Devin Watson coming back. Now, he can't help immediately, but take us through this guy's story because he's from here in San Diego. He's from Oceanside, and he wanted to come to San Diego State out of high school, but it didn't work out for him. Just kind of take us through this kid's story.
Yeah, he'll help us next year. He won't be on the floor in the games, but he'll definitely help us in practice and in the locker room because he's a very competitive young man who can score the basketball. He can make others better by giving assists. He's very talented. He's a young guy that, we knew was good coming out of high school. However, we had already had a commitment from a point guard, so we weren't able to take him. And we are very fortunate that we're able to get him now. We're excited about him. He's a San Diego native, like you said. He's homegrown. He's an Aztec, loud and proud, and we're very fortunate to have him. And he's going to do some special things for us in the years to come.
Isn't it amazing? A guy wants to go to San Diego State. They don't have the spot for him. He goes to the University of San Francisco. He becomes a really good player in the West Coast Conference, wants to come home. Now all of a sudden the spot's available because somebody else came in but then transferred. And now you hear a coach talk about him like, we got to have this guy. Yeah. And what a great story for this kid.
Great story for him and us, and we're excited to have him. You always want young men who want to be here. Nowadays with so many transfers, so much instant gratification that has to go on, and so many times guys are leaving. You do want young men who want to be here, and Devin wants to be here, and we're excited to have him.
Coach Justin Hutson from the San Diego State basketball team. Coach, great to talk to you always. Thanks for updating us on all the San Diego State basketball news. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
My pleasure. Thanks, fellas.